Oh, that's okay. I like it that way.
Oh yeah, no.
Good.
India are going to do their own thing for
How you doing?
dinner. I figure.
I'll try not to break the equipment. I'll try not to break anything up here. You know, I was going to move the podium over.
Yeah, they'll probably do that.
Yeah, we'll get started here in about a minute.
Yeah. That's sort of a...
The support crew has arrived. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final session here at Cali. The session you've all been waiting for throughout the entire conference. Secure computing for clinical student attorneys at Colorado Law. So my name is John Sabray. This is Carrie Armconnect, and we're going to take you through the journey. It's a bit of a tragedy, but it's got a happy ending, but just bear with us. We're going to share our pain with you, so that hopefully you don't make the same mistakes that we did. So I've got about 19 years of experience in higher ed IT. I first cut my teeth at the University of New Mexico at their College of Nursing. Yeah, exactly, Eddie, right. Yep, fellow nice. Yep. And then I spent a couple of years in enterprise IT there running the email system at the Health Sciences Center, and then for the last 5 years I've been at the University of Colorado Law School as their IT director. So I've got both distributed and central IT experience. My undergrad is a Bachelor of Business with MIS, and then I've got an MBA with a focus on information assurance, which is basically IT security. And this is Carrie.
And my background is the complete opposite. I worked in civil litigation and was focused on basically going to trial all the time for about 20 years. And I started working at CU in the spring of 2016. I'd never worked at a university. I just knew how to run a law firm. I had no idea how to run a clinic or what the technology needs would be that would be so different from private practice.
All right, so today we'll give you a bit of a background about Colorado law and our legal clinics. We'll look at the journey that we took to the solution, which was the secure desktop solution. We'll do a brief demonstration of that desktop, and then we'll look at kind of next steps and opportunities that we can take from there, this unique setup. So, got to talk about Colorado law. We were founded in 1892. We are having our 125th anniversary this year. The quincentennial or something is the way you can say that. And we are Colorado's only state law school. So we're ranked number 40 in the U.S. News and World Report rankings. And we have about 550 students. And we receive about 3,000 applicants per year. And we're located in Boulder, Colorado, just below the Rockies. So it's a cool place to be. And we're a pretty small school, so we're a small IT team. We use the distributed IT model, so we rely on central IT for a lot of our infrastructure services like networking, telecom, email, file services. We have 3.5 full-time equivalents, and we're a lean team, but they're an amazing group, and they get a lot of things done, and we definitely punch above our weight class. So legal clinics.
We have 9 legal clinics, and they're very diverse. We have a Native American clinic. We have a tech law clinic. We are the public defenders in not only Boulder County, but also the local municipalities around it. We have an entrepreneurial law clinic, so the needs of those clinics are completely different, which made this much, much harder. We are pro bono, so we spend a lot of time with the homeless in Boulder, which is substantial. We do have international clinics where, like, our Native American clinic goes to Belize on a very regular basis. We just had the Tech Law Clinic in Geneva. The Native American clinic is going to Geneva. Our criminal clinic goes to Morocco this summer. So it's not just what we're doing here, it's what they're taking with them when they go there.
So clinics play a large role in achieving our core values of Colorado law of civic engagement and social responsibilities. That's a very important part of our mission. How many of you all have clinics at your law school that you mentioned? All right. Go experiential learning. That's awesome. So you all are probably pretty familiar with this concept. What is a student attorney? You probably know the better than I do.
Yeah, well, in Colorado, and I've noticed that I've met with people who have clinics in different states, and the rules are very different in different states. So Colorado allows them to practice law under a supervising attorney. It is very limited what they can and can't do, which a lot of people don't know. They think they can just do everything for them. But we have 120 students in our clinics per semester. So it's a lot. And each clinic has about 12 students. One of our clinics has up to 17. They are hands-on. They're doing everything themselves. They've never used any of this technology. A lot of them haven't taken ethics yet, which makes it a little bit harder because we're trying to teach them what they can and can't do. And they get kind of frustrated because they've seen it on television. And until that point, because your one year really is about the theory of law, not necessarily the practice. So it's really hard to watch them struggle with this, and when they're struggling with technology too, it makes it that much harder. And you know, we use Clio, we have some of those things, but putting it all together is kind of the hard piece of the puzzle.
And if you guys have any questions, I meant to mention this at the beginning, please feel free to jump in, interrupt, just ask. We'll be happy to answer them. So there's ethical responsibilities that our students have to follow. All I know is that we've got this Rule 1.6, and our clinic director has drilled that into me that we basically have to secure data. So our clients are real, and the need for security is absolute for our clients in the clinic. We have cases in the international arena, and a lot of them have things clients. So in order to practice under our faculty licenses, our students must follow the same ethical responsibilities as a real practicing attorney. Did I cover it?
You did well. There's also, in Colorado, we have these ethical opinions, which I know every state has them. But Colorado has had some very specific ones that talk about what people should do when they have visiting attorneys, and that's somewhat what we call them when they're there. They're visiting attorneys. And the number one thing is the information is never supposed to touch their personal machines because we can never get it back. And so that was a piece. And also, in Colorado, the Bar Association gives this magazine every month called The Colorado Lawyer. And I love that magazine because it's like my version of Us Weekly. And the back of it is all the opinions, the ethical opinions of what attorneys did wrong. And so I always tell the students, read that. That's going to tell you what not to do. And there is a lot in there lately about how attorneys use Dropbox and that information was lost. Attorneys whose computers were stolen and information was lost. And so just kind of trying to bring it into the real world for them so that they see it that way, I think that's a good tool.
Actually, so with the rule that information should never touch personal devices, are we talking about smartphones as well? Is that through email?
So they can use the email. The way that we've set that up is to be able to access the email from their cell phones, they have to guarantee that they're using fingerprint and they have a 6-digit PIN on their phone. And then we have set it up where the email, they log in, but when they leave the clinic, it cuts off their access immediately, and it's still held on the cloud. I mean, let me explain that one.
Yeah, we hold it on the server, so we use Office 365 with that, so we enforce the rules where if the device is stolen or lost, we can remotely wipe it, assuming it comes back online after that happens. So we at least have some control over that email, and then we can pull that off the device.
So you're using the university's 0365, but you have some, it sounds like some administrative access?
I don't know.
No, they have separate emails also. So we don't give them their regular school email when they join the clinic. Okay. We give them a clinic-specific email, and they only gain access to that after they've watched a video explaining the responsibility with that. And then when they set this up, again, we can capture it. And once they leave the clinic and I cut them off, they don't have access to any of the information that's on there.
So at CU, we try to make things a little more difficult. So we actually run 2 email systems. So students are in Gmail, and then faculty and staff are in Office 365 Exchange Online. So they keep their student Gmail account. We provision them into Office 365. Central IT sets them up under the secure parameters for faculty and staff. And they have that ability to remotely wipe, and it requires the PIN code. So. Yeah, it's a little exciting. So with that, we've got the Student Attorney Challenge. So the technical expertise of our student attorneys, it varies greatly. But for most, they're going into law. They're not computer science or MIS students. It's not what they're interested in. So with the exception of some folks in our tech law policy clinic who could probably do my job or launch a NASA rocket, the majority probably self-identify as Luddites. Asking each of them to follow a clinical security protocol on their own devices is a challenge. So we try to ensure they have a basic understanding of what they need to do to meet their ethical obligations, but many fail at this. So because our faculty in the law school is also at risk for that data, we have to take steps to ensure that it's protected. So those of you who have seen what's on a student's personal laptop or mobile device, if they've come in for help, you know that's not a place you also want your client data. You know, a lack of patching, lack of encryption, malware, you know, torrents, files and software of questionable provenance. You know, the risks are real, and it's just too great for us to accept the risk that our data is intermixed with theirs. So, the technical obligations. Given the ethical obligations of our 120 practicing student attorneys, we need to secure their computing environment and provide a safe and secure place for them to practice law. We need to protect the confidential data, provide access to our practice management solution, software, and then also a way that they can access email easily and securely. Email, you know, secure in quotes there. So each of our solutions that we looked at underwent a risk assessment. You know, what's the cost of implementing this? What are the security benefits we're gaining? What are we losing? And how much, you know, what's the risk if we actually breach data? So we're looking at how to protect that data and what's going to happen if we do lose it. So here's the journey that we looked at. Beginning, this was a 5-year journey. It's somewhat embarrassing for us to admit, but hopefully we're going to save you all some pain and suffering. How many of you all are protecting clinic data? Do you guys are? All right, well, we'll go through the journey, and then I'd like to find out kind of what solutions you all are using. So we're going to look briefly at each of the possible or attempted solutions, and ironically, like every good tragedy, we had the right solution at the beginning, but because it seemed to be more expensive at the time, we tried some other things first, but wasn't the right choice. So we wandered in the desert for a while, but please keep in mind we're a small shop on a very limited budget, and with actually no support from Central IT for this particular project. So let's check them out. So first, the quick look at our guiding principles that we looked at for each solution is every August we've got 120 new bright-eyed and excited student attorneys ready to come in and practice law, take on the world. You know, Innocence Project, they're serial, they're busy, they want to get things done. And so for the faculty and staff, on our side, it feels a bit like Groundhog Day. Here we go again. We just did this last year and the year before that. We've got to get them trained, set up, secure client data, and ensure that we have strong compliance with our student attorneys, which is hopefully supported by ease of use and adoption of our tool sets and protocols. So lastly, and unfortunately most importantly, we had to consider cost. Clinic doesn't have a lot of money, IT doesn't have a lot of money, and it's not just about a dollar amount too. It's cost in terms of resources, staff time, student attorney time, and frustration with our protocols because we want to keep students coming back to the clinic. We don't want those protocols to be so onerous that they tell their upcoming classmates don't join the clinic. It's too hard. But biggest of all, we've got the compliance risk, so we need to make sure that they comply. So when I first started 5 years ago, I met with our clinical director, and she gave me the challenge. I was like, this is easy. Just buy laptops for all my students. We can control it. It seemed very obvious. We would own the machine. It would be very much like a law firm. In our Active Directory, we control login, we can deprovision them, add them, patch management's there, it's encrypted, it's secure. But what about the cost of those laptops? How do you do the initial buy? 120 machines, even at a relatively cheap rate of $400 or $500 for a pretty bare bones laptop, multiplied by our number of students was just too expensive. And then also looking at the staff time, now we're increasing the workload on the number of machines that we have to support by almost doubling our computer inventory. So that was quite expensive. And then from a student point of view, who wants a second laptop? And most of them, they've got their fancy Apple machines. They don't want some big, giant, clunky Dell, Windows machine. It's just not what every law student wants. So it was quickly dismissed. Again, the pros, really, we would have full control of the data, curated user experience. I can give them access to the printers. It seemed like a great idea, but when looking at the cons, it's just this was not something that we could get off the ground. And then the recurring cost of every 3 to 5 years, how do I replace those machines? What do I do with machines that are lost or damaged? Because students never spill drinks on their machines in class right before finals. So this solution was really ultimately a failure. All right, so take 2. What do we look at? This was a secure file share. Basically, we would give them access through a clinic-only VPN, our Windows file share just for the clinic. So we would get who's in entrepreneurial law, who is in family law. We would provision them and give them rights to folders, and the faculty would have access. This is a great way at least they can collaborate. And the clinic had a protocol that would require students install the VPN and map the network drive. So this we actually implemented for about 2 years. And this was really a step forward for security and collaboration from our point of view. The data was relatively secure at rest, and our faculty and students could work from the same file set. And additionally, when the student attorneys were off campus, they could still access the VPN and get to their files. So they didn't have to use a machine in the clinic, like a lab machine. And it was free, right? The central campus provided the VPN service and the file services for us, and it seemed like a decent idea. But the tragedy goes here, this was not ideal, and we knew that we had to try something else. We had very low adoption for this. Most students kept files locally on their machines. They didn't comply with the clinic protocol. We didn't have carry back then either. I've been part of it. And mapping a network drive may be relatively straightforward to everybody in this room, but for a student attorney, this was like asking them to slow down the movement of the earth. Between the confusion of using a custom VPN as opposed to the standard VPN that they used to access our library resources, they didn't know which VPN to go to, and they didn't know how to map the drive. They didn't know how to disconnect from the VPN before watching Netflix. We also had relatively new concerns of malware on their machines acting on that mapped drive. So especially at the beginning of cryptoware and ransomware, this solution was not ideal. So, you know what? Let's just let the students bring their own machines. So back in, I think this was 2014, 2015, we decided, you know what? Let's do whole disk encryption on every student laptop.
Who kept track of the keys?
Yeah, we did. This was bad idea. I don't even know how this. It seemed like such a good idea at the time, but it wasn't. So the idea was that we would solve for both the time waste that the VPN and file share mapping was causing, and take a serious stab at clinic security. We had a relatively new tech law policy faculty member, and he's like, we should be encrypting everything. And all right, let's do it. So students need to learn how to operate in a real law practice. And we were moving our practice management solution to a new cloud-based solution that would, in theory, at that point in time, leverage Google Drive. But unfortunately, the vendor was unable to make Google Drive available in a way that was secure enough for us. So students needed to store data locally on their machines before uploading it to our cloud practice management solution. So we decided to bite the bullet and require whole disk encryption for student machines to connect to our practice management solution. So they were required to submit all of their encryption keys to us as proof that they had encrypted their laptop. So Eddie, yeah, that's what we did. A database of encryption keys. And once they gave us that key, we gave them access to the cloud practice management system. So at this point, we were still, honestly believing that we were teaching them to apply whole disk encryption to their personal laptops. We believed this was a good idea. The experience would serve them well in legal practice and in life and everything in general, because everything should be encrypted. And our data would be protected. So if their laptop was stolen or lost, we knew that we weren't breaching data. And we had pretty high adoption, because in order to get to the practice management solution, they had to give us an encryption key, which meant they actually had to encrypt. But that quickly went south. So, the obvious thing is we did not have, an active threat risk mitigation. This took an incredible amount of staff time, and also caused an incredible amount of disgruntlement among our student attorney groups. We had detailed instructions, step by step, here's how you encrypt it. Congratulations, grab yourself an adult beverage, it's done. But pretty much every student required some level of hand-holding from our IT staff. And thankfully, the IT staff hung in there through this. But we ran into issues. This was when Windows 8 was just launching with the new UEFI BIOS that made TrueCrypt incompatible with these machines. Windows Home version, which most of our students bought, didn't have BitLocker included, so we had to buy some Pro licenses for these students to make sure they could be compliant. Macs were relatively straightforward. They had File Vault. But yeah, we had 3 different encryption solutions that we were trying to manage. But basically what we ended up doing with whole disk encryption was verifying that everyone's spinning disk hard drive was either good or bad. And as you well know, when you're encrypting, it pushes the drive hard, because you're flipping every bit over to an encrypted one. And we found several bad hard drives at that point in time. The drives were failing before we encrypted, but tried telling that and explaining that to a student attorney. He's like, my machine was fine 20 minutes ago, and now you've encrypted it and it's bricked. What's going on? And then we also struggled with our exam software with TrueCrypt as well, so that became exciting around exam time. So basically, we abandoned this here. It's not going to work. So don't do this. Don't do this. If you take one thing away, not a good plan. All right, so take 4. Virtual desktop. This is going to solve everything. So, right, it's cheap, it's low cost, doesn't take much hardware. So at this point, CU Boulder, the central IT office, was experimenting with what they called VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. So they were putting it in their labs, that we students could, from home, run engineering applications. And we're like, hey, our law students are also paying a student technology fee. This is perfect for them. Like, let's just set up a virtual desktop. They can remote in. They've got access to the printers. They've got cloud management. We can fully curate the solution that runs on their machine, and this will take care of all of our problems. So for yet another year in a row, we have a new protocol that we're going through. It was good for the first bit for these reasons. Relatively low administrative burden. Central campus took on a lot of the problems there. And it really supported BYOD. So it worked on their laptops, it worked on their tablets. Email was automatically configured, so when they logged into Outlook, the Active Directory configured email access for them, and they were good to go. But our compliance rate was incredibly low. So out of the 120 student attorneys, I think we had 4 or 5 actual users throughout the semester. And I don't know whether they just logged in and left it there just because they were probably the ones that realized out of the Tech Law Policy Clinic that we could look at the logs to see who was in there. But most logged in once, and then they just dropped it. It was just not successful. So after the pilot year, Central Campus came back to us and said, all right, look, to keep this going, we're going to look at about $20,000 a year. And that was to provide about 20 concurrent sessions for the 120 to use. Complexity.
How much did you say?
What's that?
How much did you say?
20,000.
And keep in mind that when I first met with a student about this, they said there's a reason they call it VD, like venereal disease. I said, what? And she goes, yeah. She goes, nobody wants it and we can't get rid of it. So that's how they felt
So
about
the
it.
VDI, yeah, Carrie just started at the tail end of this project. Complexity was a killer. So, VMware is a good product, but we also face the challenge of getting the Horizon View client installed on 120 different machines. So there were cases where it just wouldn't work. We had to rebuild machines to get it to actually install. Some students had, I've got my 4K gaming monitor on my Alienware laptop. This sucks. It's only in HD. These first world problems are just terrible. But it was very expensive. And probably the biggest deal breaker is the lack of persistence. So this followed the lab model, where as soon as you log off the machine, it resets back to ground zero. So anything you'd customized in Microsoft Word, your favorite font, your layout, that was all lost. So we tried AppSense to see if we could get that to hold some persistence, like at least save a bookmark. But at that point, yeah, it was just known as the VD.
Everybody, and the students we could not talk them into using this in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it was painful. So VDI maybe has its use cases in engineering, but not so much with law students. So this last year, we went back to what was our original solution. And in hindsight, we really should have started here first. But if we had, you wouldn't be here laughing at us. We wouldn't have this story to tell you or the appreciation for really the value of this solution. Given our clinic budget and the IT budget at the time, this was deemed just too expensive. But we have since learned that this is the least expensive and most effective solution that's available. So it has all the benefits of VDI, but none of the drawbacks. We're able to offer persistence and access through a web browser. No client was needed. And also, as an aside, Ericom, the company that provides the virtual or secure desktop HTML5 interface, they also have an interface for virtual desktop or VMware if you're interested. So the pros, we have full control of our data. Students basically, they just go to a web browser, they type in the address, and Windows runs inside their web browser. It's that easy. It's secure, there's no VPN required, although, technically it's not required, but
I make them use it if they're off campus.
Belt and suspenders. It runs on a smartphone or tablet, any device, anywhere. So any browser that's HTML5, they've got access to a Windows machine. We've had incredibly high adoption for this. Essentially, every student attorney has logged in and consistently used it. Most of that's, some of it's important with the tool, but also Carrie is very good about.
I use it when I'm at home, and so it's hard for them to tell me it's too hard to use. I can't use it because literally, when I was here this morning, I was getting pleadings, and I was using this system to get the pleadings, to email them out, and I do it every night.
So, yeah, Eddie.
Can you hop on your browser and log into it?
Yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, you can click through here. Absolutely. So we have persistence with this. We have everything we need. So one of the downsides was that we did not anticipate the amount of usage that we would have. So we started with, I think, 7 or 8 concurrent licenses for this. And then within like the second day of boot camp from the clinic, it was clear that we had undershot that estimate, bumped it, I think, to like 12. And then, we just didn't ramp it fast enough. So that was our biggest challenge. But we're right now at 25 concurrent licenses covering about 120 students. And
that works except at noon. At lunch hour, that doesn't work.
What's the cost per user?
So I'll get to the, yeah, no worries. Good questions, Eddie. Thanks. So the downsides, there are a couple, and I want to be clear, I'm really stretching to generate this list of downsides. Mac users have experienced issues mapping like the copy and paste keyboard shortcuts, so like Command-C, Command-V. That does not pass through the HTML5 client. So there's a workaround. They either right-click within the application, copy-paste, or they can pull up the Windows on-screen keyboard and use the commands there. We've had some issues with our evidence software, trying to get that to run and get video there, but I think we're close.
And not having sound is a problem if they're watching videos from it.
And these are issues that can be fixed in theory, so we're on that this summer. But again, we're very lucky to even have these problems. So based on what we were looking at before, these are very, very simple problems. So this is a screenshot or a slide showing the architecture of how a secure desktop works. At the far right is our Windows Server 2012 R2 running RDP. So basically it's running terminal services, and then it's also running an Ericom Access Now client, and then a secure gateway client as well. So the student attorney jumps onto their laptop using TLS 1.2, they go through the internet, they hit the secure gateway, and then I think there's a reverse proxy back and forth between the gateway and the Windows terminal services. So basically it's an easy setup, it's been reliable, very easy to manage, and it's secure.
Are you running a physical box or a Hyper-V?
So this one's virtualized, so I buy the service from our central IT shop.
Oh, okay.
And it's a virtual machine. Gotcha.
You guys use Clio?
We do.
So are they restricted to Clio from the terminal session, and they can't just get it from their home?
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll see when we open the desktop, the links are already there. So when I set them up on this, I encourage them to save that information in the virtual desktop, because then they forget their password, and so they're more likely to go on and use it this way than try and figure out how to use it the other way.
Okay.
Yeah, sir.
That VM, you're running 25 gig current desktop sessions.
I'll show you. So it's actually lighter than you'd imagine. I think we're at 3 cores and about 6 gigs of RAM, which I was pretty surprised.
You say 6 gigs?
Yeah. It's actually pretty lightweight. I mean, if they were doing more video and more intensive work, I think we would definitely need to ramp that up. But it's actually pretty lean. So yeah, let me actually just jump into the browser here, if I can find it.
And while he's looking for that, I'm going to tell you why it's like stroke out red. And one of the things that the students said last year is the reason they weren't using it is they thought they were in it. This is what we had every day. I thought I was in it. I'm so sorry. I thought I was in there. And so the reason we did red is so we'd say, if it's not red, you're in the wrong spot and you have to go back. And whether that worked or not, I don't know, but we have had much better on that.
So it's sacrilege. I've got Windows on a Mac.
Are you worried at all about the vulnerability of the browser itself? I mean, I'm running RDP in a browser. If all of a sudden my browser could be
It's a risk.
remote controlled, then all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to capture, the password, some sort of key logging. So it's a risk, but it's one that we're willing to take.
So how are you blocking them from bypassing this? It's just going directly to Clio. Have Clio put an IP, block an IP?
Yeah, so Clio, actually, you can restrict the IP address ranges that log into it. So yeah, you can require them to be on a campus network or a single IP.
So you just gave them a range and they put it in there?
Yeah, so the desktop's a little slower. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking I'm showing you guys this. Hang on, let me duck out of the PowerPoint. Escape. All right, so there's the secure desktop, and it's a little slower. We ramp the CPUs down. I think I've only got it on 1 core and 3 or 4 gigs of RAM because we're charged by the month. So for summer, we've got lower usage, so it's a little bit slower. But basically, yeah, you can just log in and run your desktop within the browser, and it's relatively straightforward. It also resizes kind of on the fly. But you see, the one thing is it's kind of confusing. Like, where am I? Am I in Microsoft Word on my machine, or am I in?
That's with anything now, Citrix receiver and stuff.
Yeah, same kind of idea. But yeah, you can see it'll resize itself based on whatever window you're running.
Does the HTML5 thing support full screen modes? Like if you hit F12, end up not being able to get out back to your Mac without trying?
No, it'll go full screen, so you can hit escape and get out. So actually, in our clinic workroom, we run I think it's SUSE, or not SUSE Linux. There's an Ubuntu version called Lubuntu. It's a very lightweight Linux, and it essentially just launches a web browser, full screens, and then they're logging into that.
And we try to, I mean, when you see the icons on the secure desktop, those are what the students were using. So like that FLS that you see down, that's the child support worksheets that they need. So I tried to put everything on there so there was absolutely no need for them to go somewhere else to get what they needed to work with, if that makes sense.
And then within that, we've got a Windows file share that our clinicians can get to from their machine, and then the students are storing data within that file share right on the box. So their documents folder is saved. We can always get into their profile, pull data if we need to.
And I think that's the easiest way to tell if they're actually using this, is because they send me an email, I need you to e-file this pleading. And I'd go to the clinic drive, and I said, well, I can't, because it's not on the clinic drive. Why aren't you using the clinic drive? Where'd you save it? And they didn't want to deal with me, so they just started putting it where I wanted it to be.
We also try to incentivize their use of it. We've got printers mapped there. We've got our label printer mapped there. We're adding a scanner, network-based scanner this summer that'll be mapped to this desktop. So hopefully, everything they need as a practicing student attorney is just available in this desktop through a browser. So instead of handing them a machine, I just give them a web link, and they jump in. So some of the admin shots, it's relatively easy to maintain service. I was able to install it. It took about 45 minutes. You can see easily how many concurrent sessions you're using. If there are any errors, it's got good notification. It should integrate with network monitoring tools like Nagios, things like that.
Jonathan, did you say what you're using for your clinic drive?
Yeah.
Because some of my clinicians are not happy with document management within Clio.
Yeah.
Are you losing documents in Clio?
I'm sorry?
Do you guys lose documents in Clio? Because that was our big problem.
Changing the name, what they complain about the name, if you write the same name, it'll overwrite the other one or something like that. So.
Yeah, we've had a lot of pain with that. So yeah, basically it's a Windows file share on the same Windows machine that's doing the Windows file share. And the students access it directly on the virtual box, and then our faculty map to it as their clinic drive in their machines. So they've all got access within that one machine.
It's on that same server then, the file share?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's lightweight enough.
Do they charge you by how much?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've got one machine. It comes with, I think, 50 gigs of storage, and we've had to up that. I think we're at 100 now. But the idea is everything should be in Clio and then backed up to Amazon S3, assuming it makes it to Clio.
Well, and what we've been doing is because you can upload an entire folder onto Clio, we've been telling students, hey, if you want to just upload the folder and then delete the old one, because they don't like the way that Clio organizes things, and it is difficult to use. Yeah. And like when you go to move file in Clio, that's just frightening to me that it's that archaic, and they feel the same way. So that's worked for us.
Good. Yeah.
So I have a question as far as Clio goes. You just have one group?
No.
Or do you have an umbrella and have it segmented out by groups as far as your clinics go?
I went through and separated everything by clinic, and when I set them up in Clio, I give them access to their clinic alone. We used to have it where everyone had access to everything, and it was too overwhelming. And
so how are you, who's doing the conflict checks?
Me.
So you're doing it all?
It just works better. And the thing is, I really believe students have the best intentions when they come into clinic because they want to do it the right way. But it's overwhelming. And if I'm trying to get them to learn all of these things, it's just too much in one setting.
So we're going through some of this stuff now. So I created a conflict checking group. We're just adding the legal assistance to that conflict checking group. So obviously they'll have access to those other clinics.
Right.
So,
Well, and I go with them the first week when they're picking up cases. I go with our clinics to the court, and I'll type it in and do it all there. And now we set it up where the courts will send us everything the morning of. So I'm checking all that before they ever even see it. And, I think it's capable. I don't think it's that much work. And
well, what happens if you're on vacation or you're not?
I don't take vacations.
I'm just saying, like, what's the contingency plan?
Well,
Something
so every school does this differently, and that's totally up to you. I set my vacations when the students aren't around. And in summer, our clinics go down considerably, and so that's not a problem. If I am gone, our clinical professors are pretty amazing, and they would do the same thing. I would just have to show them how to do it.
And you have 500 something students and 120 over in clinics, so it's like 20% of your student population.
Every semester, or so every year. So yeah,
That's a lot.
Most people who graduate have gone through us, And like this year, we gave them graduation cords. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to keep ordering more cords. It's a lot of students. And now this year's the first year it's required that they take a clinic or an externship. So I expect that number to continue to rise.
So implementing a solution, was it easy to get everybody to buy into this? Or did you have resistance from different clinical directors?
I don't think so let me quantify that. So since it was my first year, I didn't think that them not doing it was going to even be an option. And so we just did it that way. And instead, before they'd send out a flyer and say, here's the information, do it. And this year, we set up a time where I met with each clinic in their boot camp, and I spent 2 hours. And I'd make them, instead of just doing a PowerPoint, I made them log in. I made sure every one of them could log in. I taught them how to use the VPN. I went through Clio with them, taught them how to use Clio, taught them how to use the Clinic Drive, and I set up files in each case and said, this is what your file should look like. This is how you can move it to Clio. And so it kind of eliminated that problem. But, I mean, some clinics, I admit we had one clinic, and it cracked me up. There was one clinic that I went into that clinic 3 times throughout the year and said, you're not using it, why aren't you using it? What's the problem? And I still don't know what happened with that one clinic.
So here's a question for you then. So if I had your institution's VPN on my phone, and I got connected to the VPN, and I used the Clio app on my phone and connect directly to...
If we'd added the VPN range to Clio's list of allowed IPs, yeah, you could.
Okay, so you didn't add the VPN range. Okay. No, that's just wondering.
It's through the campus network and then the secure desktop.
I'm just trying to figure out different
Yeah, no, there's a lot of ways to do it. And the other benefit of the secure desktop, too, is you can decide whether you want to allow local printers to map through, whether you want to allow copy and paste to come between the local machine and the browser. You can enable it. We chose not to. So the data pretty well stays within that secure desktop.
Yeah. Backup, DR, you're depending on main campus for their Hyper-V or VMware
Exactly.
infrastructure. You guys have any issues with that going down? They're not playing nice?
No, I mean, so we buy the service and we pay a pretty decent amount. So that's, I'm buying about $3,000 worth of virtual server per year. So with that, yeah, they take a full snapshot backup, and then the data is also backed up off the file system. So, I mean, worst case scenario, we rebuild the box and then copy the data off the backup. But it's, in theory, snapshotted. We've never had to bring it back. But yeah, it's part of our service there. But yeah, it's pretty lightweight.
I think this is great in terms of risk mitigation. I think this applies to anything where you're kind of allowing data outside of your actual on-prem. Have you guys investigated cyber insurance? Is that something that seems like it's worth getting, or
What was it again?
cyber insurance?
cyber liability. I'm sure the
No.
university has that as a whole.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not.
Well, we're looking at it, and we're kind of wondering what university would allow, whether we're covered under them, and whether, it's worth the price. We've seen some pretty wild swings in terms of what one might pay for, depending on the data you handle as well.
I'd be curious. Yeah, University of Colorado, I know in other areas, like we've looked at insuring some of our hardware, just in case of loss. And they self-insure, so I don't know how they would handle that.
So yeah, I'm sure since you're in a hybrid model, I'm sure a lot of stuff falls under the central IP.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
HU's got like a $20 million cyber liability insurance policy. So
Yeah,
that's
they
why
may have that.
IT risk assessment, security awareness, encryption, and all these things fall under those.
So is that just for the clinic, or like the data that you're getting that insurance, or is it?
It's just for breaches, for
Just
data
breach
breaches.
protection.
So in case IDs get compromised, something gets ransomware, or a lot.
You guys are getting that through your normal insurance
It's
provider?
provided from our university provides it. Information Security Office handles all that cyber liability.
Okay.
I'll have to ask. Yeah, I'm not,
But that's why,
I'm not sure.
in engaging with them, it's like, hey, this is why you got to do risk assessment. This is why you got to do security awareness. This is why you have to. So coming in the fall, they're going to start mandating all the students to use two-factor.
Good.
So we have two-factor fall
I
back.
wish, yeah, ours
I like that.
hasn't been turned on.
I like it too, but these are some of the things. So if something does happen as a breach, the
Yep.
insurance company's going to, what steps have you taken to
Holds me
protect,
accountable.
or what are you being proactive at? You know what I mean?
Well, in Colorado, it's interesting in that because we are a governmental Colorado has caps on governmental entities. It's a whole thing. That's why most universities are self-insured in Colorado. So I don't know that we're the people that ask that question. It's just a little bit different.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm going to check because that's...
The cyber liability, I mean, it's becoming huge. I guarantee in the next 5 years, you'll be able to call State Farm or farmers and go, hey,
Why?
you get personal cyber liability.
Yeah. Well, and plus, I mean, well, never mind. Let's go.
That's good. Yeah, it's good to know. Appreciate the conversation. So anyway, yeah, there's the cost. Relatively straightforward. So setup tips. Really manage your timeouts. So that's how long the session stays active while the student has been disconnected. And we initially did 10 minutes at the beginning, and then we lowered it when we were overrunning our concurrent license usage to try to drop people faster so that if they weren't using it, they would get bumped out. We'll probably pull that back up time-wise again. We use a vanity URL redirect, so it makes it easy for the students to get there. Just colorado.edu/law/secure desktop. And then really just do what you can to incentivize adoption. Give them all the carrots you can within the tool. So lessons learned through this 5-year odyssey really is easy is best for users. There's a natural tension, in security between ease of use and keeping something secure, but also ensuring that you've got good compliance. So this secure desktop solution is really the exception to that rule. It's pretty easy and it's critical for users, especially student attorneys. Make it easy. Just go to the link, they log in, and they start using the desktop. And it stays with them just all year. And Carrie helps to reinforce that. And then again, you saw we use that distinct background to try to at least help them identify when they're on their desktop versus the secure desktop. You guys saw the demo. You saw it in action. So next steps, really we've got interest in using secure desktop for people who want like an iPad Pro as their only computer. They still need an occasional access to a Windows application that won't run on the iPad. Maybe they have an Access database. One idea is they can do that with the secure desktop. And then other bring your own device scenarios. So we're considering that as ways that faculty assistants can work from home. They can just jump in and they've got a desktop ready to go. So it's an interesting technology for us. So that's the end of the presentation. But happy to take any questions you all may have.
Did you say you require the VPN to access the URL?
So technically, no, but Carrie has the student attorneys.
So do you manage any of the DNS records for any of your domains?
No.
So I just wonder if they have to split DNS, or if they have external DNS and internal DNS at your school.
Well,
if they do, then just tell them to take it out of the external DNS and just leave it internal DNS.
Yeah, no, we absolutely. Yeah, no, we absolutely could, but like our faculty, Carrie, it's with that secure gateway, it's essentially a VPN, but it's good practice having students get that VPN connection.
I use it when I'm away from the school. And, most of them, again, they want to do the right thing. And at the beginning, and I don't know if I will do this next year because I think we kind of overwhelmed a lot of them. I started giving them the ethics opinions before we did this just to be like, it's a really big deal. Don't screw this up. And I don't think I'll do that again, but they were using the VPN. Like, I'd walk in Starbucks, and when one of our students was there, it was up there. I knew they were using it. So, I really do think they want to do it. And if they remember, and that's the key, is you're giving them so many things to remember at once. I think sometimes they forget all those steps. If you can get them to remember those steps or have it where they can access it and realize, oh, yeah, I've got to do that first, I think they will comply. Law students don't go to law school because they're not, most of them are here because they do want to make that difference. They do want to do the right thing. They do, and they will.
I like it.
Susan.
So if you take this system to China, is that enough protection?
Yes.
Our students didn't bring laptops when they went.
I would, yeah, let me ask caveats.
In LA, when you turn on VPN, though, they tend to make, if you're at a hotel, they'll come by and say, hey, they don't like seeing security.
Yeah. So, yeah, that piece I don't know about, but I would feel comfortable with them if they were
it
allowed
works.
to.
It lowers the risk, and you guys have control over what you need to have control over. So, it seems like a good solution.
Yeah.
But they don't bring their own machines when they travel internationally. John gets them a machine ready to go, just in case, because right now we don't know if they're going to use it in customs or what it's going to be. And we just don't, especially we do an immigration clinic, and we probably have 500 legal immigrant information in our system, and I don't want anybody to have that. So we just try and protect that as much as we can when they're gone.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all so much for coming. I've got some handouts and some cards down there if you're interested. I'm not a shill for Ericon, but they sent some pamphlets if you're interested. So thank you all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're planning
I know. Well.
Keep it out, Mike.
Yeah, we go to that.
Good.
That's already filed, so that's just it's part of it.
Let's start with security.
Looking to see what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And then just like
Where it goes.
oh, but it hit some of the script templates.
Yeah.
I see your ads everywhere.
But then the cost of life.
Yeah.
I've gone down that road where you're like,
On him at one of the breaks. I just found.
so.
Been out?